bring this together for us once again. Is there a minister in the house?
Reverend Michelle, Reverend Lydia.
What is your name?
Reverend Mark Rose.
What's your name?
Reverend Mark Rose.
Mark Rozier.
Yes, please, sir.
Reverend Mark Rozier, not only is he one of the ministers here, he's cleaning up the place and bringing out ice and doing everything. Reverend Mark Rozier, give him a hand. And give us a welcome greeting and a prayer for open us.
You got to excuse the place. We had a food bank today, and we was trying to get it all together for you all. But God bless you all for coming. To whatever you're doing. I know it's good for the city and good for the people. And on behalf of our pastor, senior pastor Katrina Organ, senior pastor of Beulah Baptist Church, I'm Reverend Mark. We welcome you. Come back anytime. We love you. Have a great time.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. As you know, we have a coalition of wonderful partners, and Marin, formerly of the VEAM Group, she is the founder and executive director, Voter Empowerment, Education, and Enrichment Movement. Let's say that again. Voter Empowerment, Education, Enrichment Movement. In other words, it's a movement, not just an act for a moment. It's a movement to get into your heart, soul, and mind. So let's give her a big hand, one of our new young leaders of the Pittsburgh region. She's going to share with us our partners.
Thank you, Mr. Tim. Good evening, everybody. Hey, all right. So we are here at our third Voting is Power Pittsburgh Regional Coalition Eat, Meet, and Greet. Thank you for everybody for the pizza and the snacks and the deliciousness and the Beulah Baptist. And so now let us go through and list the amazing partners that are a part of Voting is Power. And if you're a part of this organization, I want you to give a little whoop, whoop, something, okay? Let us know that you're here. All right. Black Political Empowerment Project. Yeah. League of Women Voters. Yeah. The John Lewis Transformation Justice Coalition. Yeah. YWCA Greater Pittsburgh. I love how we're woo-woo with everybody. It's beautiful. Wake Up the Vote. VEAM, the Voter Empowerment, Education, and Enrichment Movement. NAACP, Pittsburgh Branch. The Alliance for Police Accountability. Vote Riders. Black Voters Matter. Okay, pump. Everybody vote. National Council of Jewish Women. National Council of Negro Women. The Abolitionist Law Center. Central Baptist Church. Beulah Baptist Church. St. James AME. Pittsburgh Higher Ground Ministries. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Okay, One Hood. Okay, now. One Hood. Peace is possible. All right now. West End Power. South Pittsburgh Coalition for Peace. The Links. The Urban League of Pittsburgh. New Pennsylvania Project Education Foundation. Fighting Back. Freedom Unlimited. Hill District Consensus Group. Sisters Saving Ourselves Now. Black Women's Policy Center. 100 Black Men. Just Harvest. TMAG, the Talk Minority Action Group. And finally, that was a lot of woo-wooing. Black Political Assembly of Western PA. Let us go ahead and congratulate and thank our amazing partners. And so now at this time, I'm going to send the microphone over to my cousin, for real, Gilliam family, Josiah Gilliam, my baby cousin.
Thank you. Excellent. One more time for Marin and VEAM. Good evening, everybody. How we doing?
We're good.
Good. It's good to be with you guys again. We've been enjoying these. These are fun, right? Not too bad. Good. Well, my name is Josiah Gilliam. I'm the executive director at Pump, and I am not supposed to stand before you long, so we'll keep it quick. It's my honor to introduce the first speaker for tonight, and then we'll proceed through the list. But I was told to define what a Pennsylvania state representative is, and so I'm going to read that summary and then invite Sam for Nicole. Is that you? To come and join us, and then we'll proceed. Okay, so a Pennsylvania representative, 2-year term, no term limits. There are 203 Pennsylvania representatives. They represent one district each with an equal number of constituents. They develop budget packages, make taxation decisions, allocate spending, pass laws, including redistricting, in collaboration with the state Senate. Exclusive authority to impeach officials. They serve on policy committees like appropriations, education, health insurance, aging, veteran affairs, and the environment. Please help me in welcoming Sam to speak on behalf of her candidate.
Long walk. That's the workout for the day.
Sam,
Yes.
we're the timers.
Okay, I won't take long, I promise.
Well, you have 5 minutes,
Got it.
and we'll tell you if 1 minute, 30 minutes.
7.
Okay, well, I'll keep it quick. Hi, everybody, I'm Sam. I'm the campaign manager for Nicole Rosito. She is running for State Senate District 37, which is this crescent-shaped district around the city of Pittsburgh, running from Jefferson Hills, Pleasant Hills, all the way up to Sewickley. And that's where I'll be actually going right after this. So I apologize, I have to sneak out just because we have another event. As I'm sure you all know, the campaign trail is a bit crazy, but would love to tell you all a little bit about Nicole. She is a 27-year public school teacher, born and raised in the district she is running to present. And really, I could tell you a lot about what she believes in, and I will, but first and foremost, what you have to know is she wants to bring teacher common sense to Harrisburg. There's so much that the Democratic State House is doing, these amazing bills to raise wages, lower costs, protect reproductive freedoms, make schools better, ensure that everybody has equal access to incredible public schools like the ones that Nicole teaches in. And she thinks the state Senate needs to be doing better as well. So that is why she's running. She is running to flip the top competitive district in this race. So Allegheny County is home to one of the districts that the state in general and Democrats across the state are really looking at to flip to be able to make a real change in Pennsylvania. So again, the 3 biggest things for Nicole are, protecting women's rights and access to reproductive rights, lowering costs, raising wages, and of course, public education, because that's really where she comes from. And she is 3rd generation labor, as she always proudly talks about. She has 2 sons. Also, one of my favorite fun facts, she's a boys basketball coach, which I think is super cool. Yes, so it was definitely hard balancing her basketball season and then March Madness and then everything else around it. But it definitely is an incredible opportunity for her to kind of, take the lessons she learned both on the court and as a coach in the classroom and bring them to Pennsylvania, to the state Senate. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions individually. I know there's a lot of speakers. But definitely encourage anyone who has if you have any family or friends who live in that area in the South Hills, again, up towards Sewickley and the Quaker Valley, definitely keep an eye out for Nicole. And it's a real honor to be here. And thank you for inviting us and the campaign. I'm just really happy to be here. So thank you, everybody.
Is
that short enough?
So that's 4 minutes and 31 seconds. She only took 3 minutes.
Nicole, you have 4 more minutes if you want. You're getting 7 minutes. Politicians don't get time away. If you want to tell people why this woman is so wonderful,
That's why.
you should do that. You got 7 minutes.
I think she did a good job.
It's okay.
Don't
worry about it.
It's good.
And I apologize. I read the definition for state rep, and that person's running for state senate. So there's a bit of a Venn diagram there, but I do want to acknowledge that.
But you can read that.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. James Hayes. Running a 12th congressional district, federal level. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you.
There it is.
Outside voice. All right.
Well, thanks for having me again. I've actually made all 4 of these events. I see them as a great opportunity to come out and speak with you all. Some of you I've met, some of you I haven't. So you're all going to get the whole speech, so that the people that are out there, the people that are new, get a chance to know me. So I'm a native Pennsylvanian and the son of a steel worker. And I'm very proud that the steel workers provided a partial scholarship that allowed me to go to schools, and I've had some great education. I have 5 kids, and my wife, Brenda, who's originally from Mexico. I'm sure if she were here, she would say, gracias por la oportunidad de hablar con ustedes, which is thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all. I lived 3 years in Mexico. That's where we met. So I am fluent in Spanish, and one of my great, it's always one of my great hobbies. I have 30 years in finance and industry, including 6 years with the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. The Federal Reserve was a great inspiration, and it was a very rewarding job. And it's really inspired me to go on to additional public service. But as I've said, my biggest inspiration is you all. I don't feel that we in the 12th district are getting the kind of representation that we deserve. Unlike my opponent, I believe that we need safe communities. I want to help build safe communities. I want them to be vibrant. I want them to be a community that our kids and grandkids want to come back to. I think one of the ways you do that is to support law enforcement, so that they are inspired for their jobs and they help keep our community safe. I also think we need, like, there are just a bad element, the very small percentage of the population. They need to be kept away from us so that we can be safe. But that's not the only course of action that I think will help keep our community safe. We need to have things to do for our young people to get the issue at its root. There are things like the Boys and Girls Club, the Boy Scouts, after school programs. A friend of mine is creating something called Steel City Squash, in which he's bringing the game of squash to underrepresented populations. It's a great sport because it doesn't require a lot of equipment to be involved in, and it can actually change lives because there are many, many scholarships that help that are looking for good squash players, and so I think those types of activities can be very helpful for the community. When I was young, I did the Naval Sea Cadets. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's like the Boy Scouts run by the U.S. Navy. Very, very great program for me. It taught me personal responsibility. It taught me teamwork. It taught me leadership. And it was a program that gave me all sorts of experiences and put me in touch with all sorts of individuals from all around America. And I realized how united we are and what a beautiful country we are and how diverse our community is. I also believe that we need to support our job creators and especially our energy industry. The Western Pennsylvania has the 4th largest natural gas reserves in the world. So we see Iran and we see Russia causing all of these problems around the world. The only reason they're able to do it is because we've attacked our own industry, and that's caused gasoline and gas prices to go through the roof. And it's made our allies rely on Russia for natural gas instead of relying on us. So what does that do? That creates turmoil. It weakens us and it strengthens them. The only people that cheered around the world when Joe Biden cut exports of liquefied natural gas were the Iranians and the Russians, because they knew that it meant that they would continue to dominate in the way that we should be dominating. So I want to support our job creators, especially the energy industry, but all the job creators. People talk about a minimum wage. If you have jobs, if you have companies in your area competing, you won't need to talk about a minimum wage, because they are going to bid up labor prices. They are going to improve working conditions because they're going to want to attract workers. And so let's support our job creators and make our area strong and vibrant. And then my last issue is school choice. I'm a big proponent of school choice. When I was growing up, I was in a school that wasn't performing, and I was really going down a bad track. And lucky for me, my parents were able to move from a not performing school district into a great school district. But I don't think that a person should have to change their zip codes to have a good school. So to me, what is more fair than giving everyone an allocation that they can use? They could take it to a public school, they could take it to a private school, they could take it to a parochial school, but they and their parents decide what school, what program is best for them. And that will create competition among educational institutions, where they're all going to get better. They're going to focus on outcomes for students because they know it's the outcome for students that's going to drive people into their programs, and the rising tide will raise all the boats. So I'm not looking to go to Washington to become a TikTok star. I'm not looking to have the most famous Facebook page. I am going to get results. I want to go and I want to represent your interests. I want to advocate for your needs. And so I know I'm probably unique here because I think I'm the only Republican on the roster. But I hope that you will look at my website, jameshayesforpa.com. Look at what I stand for. Look at how I believe my beliefs, my values align with yours. And I hope that you'll support me, not only if you're Republican in the primary, but also in the general election in November. So thank you again for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity. A shout out to Voting is Power. And I look forward to continuing to see you along the campaign. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So as I acknowledged at the beginning, I read the description for Pennsylvania State Rep for a state Senate seat, very cleverly. But now, given our next guest is here, I'll take the opportunity to read the state Senate description so we all understand what that is. And then we'll welcome Senator Jay Costa, Pennsylvania Senator Jay Costa. So a PA senator, a 4-year term, no term limits, 50 PA senators represent one district each with an equal number of constituents. Develops budget packages, makes taxation decisions, allocates spending, passes laws, including redistricting in collaboration with the House of Representatives. Can try officials impeached by the House, authorizes executive appointments, serves on policy committees like appropriations, armed services, budget, and more. Please help me welcome Pennsylvania Senator Jay Costa.
Thank you very much. Hi, Tim. Well, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing this evening? Good. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to come by, spend some time with you and describe some of the things that I've been doing and the work that we continue to need to be able to do in Harrisburg, but also in the districts and the community that we collectively live in. As was mentioned, my name is Jay Costa, and I serve as a Democratic leader in the Pennsylvania Senate, which means 21 other senators from across the state have chosen me the last 10 years to serve as that Democratic leader. What that means is I'm the person that manages the floor activity, for example, on the Senate floor every day that we are in session. But beyond that, it allows me the opportunity to be part of a small group of folks across Pennsylvania, leadership folks, along with the administration, the governor and his team, to really fashion policy and to fashion the budgets, what we do here in Pennsylvania. A lot of attention has been paid to some of the things we've been doing over the course of the past couple of years. You saw last year, we had a really protracted budget process, but we completed it and made significant investments again on areas that are really important. Certainly the work that we've been doing, and I've been at the forefront on, is education, and we continue to make that a priority. That's a priority of mine that has always been. I've had signature legislation along those lines we've been able to be successful on, but there's many other areas that we work in that are equally important. One of the spaces that I have had the opportunity to have a lot of success in was in the area of housing. Working closely with my colleagues from across the state, we developed a couple of housing programs over the course of the past couple of years. One of them, for example, was the HOP program, Housing Opportunity Program through PHFA, which is a housing finance agency. We were able to drive $100 million that my colleagues and I developed in our Senate Democratic Caucus, $100 million across Pennsylvania. Allegheny County received almost 20% of that, which is significantly higher than our proportional share of our population. These are projects that are allowing people to be able to stay in their homes, adapt and fix up old housing stock that needed to be addressed. Similarly with the whole home repair, I work with my colleague, Senator Nikhil Saval from Philadelphia, and Representative at the time, Sarah Innamorato, to develop the whole home repair program. We're fighting right now to continue to maintain as part of our programs here in Pennsylvania. We also have something called a FAIR program, which again allows for housing opportunity for folks, and more importantly, provides resources to community groups to encourage folks to find housing and to be able to foster good working conditions along those lines to make certain that people have a good quality place to live. That's in the housing space we've worked on, and there's more that needs to be done. In the education space, you know that you may not know, but Pennsylvania's educational system, how we fund our kindergarten through 12th grade, is deemed to be unconstitutional by Commonwealth Court. And that decision is final because no one has appealed it. So we find ourselves in a situation where we got to go back and revisit how we fund our public schools. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. We put together a task force, which I appointed folks from my community and also from the Senate to serve on, made recommendations that we are short. The amount of money this Commonwealth Court said that we were short with respect to adequacy was $6 billion that we need to make up. So now we're embarking on a course, along with Governor Shapiro, to reinvest $6 billion over 7 years across this Commonwealth in public education. To me, that's significant, and we need to take those steps because there's so many school districts, whether it be Pittsburgh or Woodland Hills or Penn Hills or some of the other school districts in our area that have been shortchanged for a number of years. And there's a couple of parts to that. There's adequacy, which means we haven't been spending enough money in our school districts. The other part is tax equity. We need to take steps along those lines as well. The third piece of work that I do a lot of activity in relates to economic development, community development. By being leader, I have the opportunity to make decisions with regard to where we're going to make investments, particularly as it relates to a program called RCAP, Redevelopment Capital Assistance Projects. We work closely with a lot of developers across the region who are developing housing, who are also developing opportunities for folks to be able to develop neighborhoods and communities with different projects and buildings and the like, to bring growth to our community. For example, in East Liberty section, some of the work that's being done with Bakery Square, some of the work being done in Lawrenceville, the work that's being done at the airport corridor. Those are just some examples of projects that we've worked closely on that have really grown a number of jobs here in Pennsylvania. Trust me, I know we need more to do. We need to make more investments in our neighborhoods, quite frankly. But at the same time, we need folks to step forward who want to be those developers to be able to do that. But economic development is an area that I focus on a lot, and particularly as it relates to what are commonly referred to as discretionary grants, making sure that we're able to find resources to be able to drive out into a neighborhood to a lot of community groups. When you think about the community groups and community organizations that need support to be able to properly function, to be able to have staffing, to be able to have programs, that's the work we do. For example, the one program I mentioned was the FAIR program. We do a lot in providing to neighborhood and community groups resources to help foster a conversation about housing in our areas. Those are three primary areas. On the side of policy, our policies are going to continue to be to address economic development, but we can do that also through increasing the minimum wage. You all know the story about Pennsylvania being at $7.25. We have more work to do, obviously, to become a state that at least gets us to $12 to $15. Even a path to $12 to $15 or $18 or $20 is what we need to be. Every single state around us has a higher minimum wage than we have in Pennsylvania. And we got to take steps to address that. We Senate Democrats have been talking about, that's one of our priorities, and we're going to continue to work on that. As serving as Democratic leader, I mentioned to you, there's 22 of us. Was mentioned there are 50 senators in total. Means there are 28 Republican senators. They control the majority. They dictate and determine what bills are going to be heard, what the agenda is going to be. And what does that say, 1 minute? I'm sorry, I didn't bring any glasses. I'll be very brief. We have to take steps. Our House of Representatives, led by Speaker McClinton, has provided over 263 bills. As of Friday, she was here in Pittsburgh Thursday and Friday. 263 bills have come over from the House to the Senate. Nearly 95% of them are still sitting in the Senate. Republicans will not run those bills. That's why we have to elect a Democratic Senate. That's why we have 3 opportunities here across Pennsylvania to get us to 25. And working with Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis to get us to 25, gives us the majority, allows us the opportunity then to drive the agenda. We determine what bills will be voted on. We'll be on the offensive, being able to implement the House bills that come over. Everything from minimum, as I mentioned to you, minimum wage, criminal justice reform, and I've got 15 seconds. Thank you for the Thank you very much. I tried to squeeze it all in. There's a lot more I can share with you, but I appreciate, most importantly, the opportunity to come by. I'm unopposed. No one's running, which is great. And she told me to stop. Thank you for the opportunity to serve all of you. I don't know if you're doing questions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
We're talking.
Okay,
For the Senate, not yet.
okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Senator Jay Costa running for Pennsylvania State Senate. All right, now it's my pleasure to welcome up Pauline, running for the 32nd Legislative District. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, thank you. I'd like to thank Senator Costa for opening for me. I'd like to thank you for inviting me. This is not the first forum I've been at. I tried to make all of them. Unfortunately, I could not make that. And I noticed that the wonderful gentleman who introduced me by my first name. And that just reminds me, a few years back, I believe it was then, I'm not sure exactly when it was, maybe a year or so ago, I heard that Denzel Washington was in Pittsburgh to do a show, and he stopped by a senior citizen center, and he was early. And there was a woman sitting in the hallway, and he walked up to her and said, "Do you know who I am?" She said, "No, but if you go to the front desk, they have a list. She can tell you." My name is Pauline Calabrese. My name is Pauline Calabrese, and I'm the mayor of Penn Hills. I grew up in the city of Pittsburgh. I'm the youngest of 7. I got 6 older sisters. I had nothing to do with that. My father was a Pittsburgh firefighter. My grandfather was a Pittsburgh firefighter. I grew up in Bloomfield. And if you know Bloomfield, on this side of the Bloomfield Bridge is Bloomfield. And on this side of the Bloomfield, the other side is the Hill District. I played for Ozanam. There's a league there, the Ozanam Basketball League. If we weren't the first white team, we were one of the first white teams that ever went there. Some of you might know Big Daddy Murph. He was our coach. And he walked so proudly into the basketball court with us. And, I went to school with, I went to an all-girls school, but we had all races there, right? But we didn't see that. And the thing is, what was happening on this side of the Bloomfield Bridge was happening on that side too. Our mothers were praying for the same thing. While we were shooting hoops over here, people were shooting dope over there. And while our mothers were praying for us, by the grace of God, we didn't go in that direction. But I'm a city girl. I got married, I moved to the North Hills because at that time that was the place to be. We were renting. My mother-in-law called me and said there was a house on the Howard Hanna Showcase of Homes in Penn Hills. I said, "Thank you." And I hung up the phone and I said to my husband, "I'm not moving to Penn Hills. Let's go look at this place so I can honestly say I looked at it, but it's just not going to work out." I fell in love with it. I had no idea that Penn Hills had a neighborhood like that. I had no idea that Penn Hills had neighborhoods. To me, that was in the country. It was not anything. I was used to walking. I had never seen a deer walk through my driveway or anything like that. I didn't even have a driveway in the city. I had no idea that I would ever live in Penn Hills, let alone become the mayor of Penn Hills. In the late 1800s, there was a book written called The Other Half. And that man wrote the book so that people could see what was happening in the New York tenements and the slums and the factories with the children and the living conditions. That book was called The Other Half. And a young man who was just getting into politics at that time, he was starting his public service career, he read that book. And he sent a note, and the note said, "I'm here to help." It was Theodore Roosevelt. I'm an attorney. I had no idea that I was ever going to be in this position, as I said, but I did pro bono work. I'm here to help. I fundamentally believe that everybody's entitled to a good education. I fundamentally believe that everybody's entitled to health care. I fundamentally believe that everybody's entitled to access to the courthouse door. Talk is cheap. Let me know what you have done. I served on the board of the Catholic Charities Free Healthcare Clinic. They have healthcare plus dental care. I hadn't seen that done before. I was on the faculty of My name is Pauline Calabrese. If you forget my name, I'm the only woman running for the 32nd district. You may not be in my district, but I bet that you know someone who lives in my district, or you related to someone who lives in my district. So please, for the State House, and you might say, what do I care? I'm not in your district. Yes, you are, because the State House is an army of soldiers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Ms. Paul. For multiple, he had multiple deployments to Iraq, came back here, became a voting rights attorney, and worked in Washington, D.C., then worked at Pitt. He helped organize the graduate school faculty. In Congress, he's really been focusing on serving all of us. That means fighting back against corporate power. I think one of the things that he has been pushing for really successfully is Rail Safety Act. Just outside the district, some of you may have heard, there was a big train derailment, poisoned the environment. There was a lot of people who were not getting that money cleaned back. There was corporate interests who were pushing against, notifying people what was on those trains, and he is putting the district. I think another thing that he's wanted to do is make sure our elections are safe and fair, but that everyone has an opportunity to vote, right? Restoring the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And also making sure that women have, the opportunity, reproductive freedom is another important issue. So people have the opportunity, to make their own choices there. I'm happy to answer questions. I don't know if that's something that's here, but all righty. Now it's my pleasure to introduce John Thomas. What are you running for, John?
U.S. Senate.
U.S. Senate. I've heard of it. Come on.
I think you guys know what U.S. Senate does, right?
So, yeah, should I read the definition? United States Senate?
Do you have it?
United States
Nice.
Senator. Okay. United States Senator, 6-year term. Each state elects 2. So that's 100 in total.
That's how that math works
I was a
out.
liberal arts major. That's not bad.
That's good.
Writes, votes in favor or against final bills, advises and consents on presidential nominees and treaties, conducts oversight of all branches of government, 2/3 vote needed to convict officials impeached by the House, serves on policy committees like housing, health and education, environment, taxes, and veteran affairs.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, I am John Thomas. I am a libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate. I was not planning on running for U.S. Senate this year. As a matter of fact, back in March, the Libertarians had their state, the Libertarians had their state convention. And while at the convention, a couple of young men approached me in the hallway and they said, "We need a Senate candidate. Will you do it?" And I was like, well, first, that is not something you decide without talking to your wife first. You got to get permission on that one. And they were like, well, you have a phone on you, right? This is the 21st century. She has a phone on her. Make this happen. So then the question came up, why don't you do it? Instead of coming to me, why are you asking? And these young men said, we're not old enough. They were all below the age of 30. You have to be 30 years old or older to run for the U.S. Senate. I thought, wow, that really says something about the Libertarian Party. We're small, but we're young. We're youthful. Whenever the Democrats or Republicans are looking for somebody who's not in their 80s to represent them, we're looking for somebody who's at least in their 30s. So I was honored for that. I actually do have a background though in politics a little bit. My first degree was in political science pre-law, but then I talked to lawyers and. I'm sorry, Pauline, but I was like, I figured out that most lawyers are not like Matlock. It's not that exciting. So I decided that where my heart really was in education. So I got another degree in education, and I've been working in education for about the last 20 years. So whenever I was studying political science, they would say things like, if you're going to speak to a group like a voting is power event, you've got to speak to Black issues. And I'm thinking, what in the heck's a Black issue? And their answer would probably be something like criminal justice reform or things like that. Well, I'll tell you what, I was in jail. I was in a jail. I shouldn't say I was in jail last Sunday night. I was in a jail Sunday night in rural Pennsylvania, and 100% of the people who I saw there were white. They look like me. So there are these stereotypes out there that do not necessarily reflect reality. Well, I come from a rural, poor, white neighborhood. And yes, there are crime problems there. And yes, we could use reform for our criminal justice system. As a matter of fact, I think that our system is a lot more criminal than it is just in a lot of cases. And we need to address that. But that's not a Black issue. That's not a white issue. That's a human issue. And that's what we need to come at all of these issues as. We need to come at it as a human issue, and whether it be education. And I think that education is vitally important. Like I said, I've been an educator for the last 20 years. I was just looking at today that teacher salaries, when adjusted for inflation, are actually a little bit lower today than they were in 2000. The amount of money, though, that we're investing in education continues to go up. So what's happening to that money? Well, there are programs like No Child Left Behind. It still has some connections, things like that increase the red tape that schools have to deal with. So what happens then? They have to hire administrators to deal with the red tape, and then the teachers are dealing with the same size classes, making the same amount of money, despite the fact that we're spending more money on education. We need to free the schools to be able to pay the teachers to do what they do and teach. So education is very important to me. But one of the fundamental things I'm running on is prosperity. I think that we need to bring prosperity to Pennsylvania, and I think we do that by freeing up the economy. I was in church on a few Sundays ago, and there's this lady at our church. Her name's Mrs. Crabtree, and she is known for her peanut butter pies. I hope that if you guys who go to church have somebody who's known for their peanut butter pies, because that's great. But she is known to bake these pies and give them to people at church, saying, you know, I was thinking about you this week. The Holy Spirit put it on me to pray for you, so I baked you a pie. And I was just waiting for my opportunity. I was waiting for Mrs. Crabtree to bring me the pie. And like 3 weeks ago, she came up to me and she said, John, the Holy Spirit put it on me to pray for you. And I was thinking, thank you, Holy Spirit, praise the Lord. She gave me a peanut butter pie. It was fantastic. But I was thinking, what if Mrs. Crabtree wanted to go in business making peanut butter pies? Her pies are well known. Well, she would have to get an industrial-sized kitchen. She would have to get industrial-approved this, industrial-approved that. And everything would have to be inspected by the state. Lots of lots of regulation and hoops that she would have to jump through. And really, the only thing that I think should be required for her to sell her pies is a reputation of her making great pies and her willingness to sell them. Now, I think that if we got rid of these regulations, there are millions of Mrs. Crabtrees and Mr. Smiths and people throughout the state of Pennsylvania who do great service for their neighbors. And because of regulations, we forbid them from making any money doing it. I don't think that we need giant corporations to invest in throughout the state. We just need to free the people of Pennsylvania to do what they do and start businesses, and entrepreneurship will change this state. Thank you very much. Oh, and I have a petition to help get me on the ballot if anybody's willing to sign.
Okay. John Thomas, running for United States Senate. Thanks for being here. All right, my friends, that is the final list of the candidates and representatives that we have. I've been instructed to invite the Voting is Power Coalition organizations and partners to join me up here to speak a little bit to you all. So if you're part of the coalition, an organization, please come up, join me to say a couple words. Tim, you're not coming?
Come on, Mr. Tim. Where's
Urban League.
Urban League?
We can start. We can start.
He's on WACP.
We have one more candidate in the house.
Oh.
Representative candidate. For Eugene.
For Eugene? You Carter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we all good.
Gotcha. Carter for Eugene Pasquale, Attorney General. You want me to read the, do I have it here?
I got
This one?
Yeah, share the definition. Go ahead, share the definition.
Share the definition?
Yes.
All right, PA Attorney General, for-year term, the Commonwealth's Chief Legal Enforcement Officer charged with the prosecution of organized crime and public corruption, as well as with some civil litigation. Represents the Commonwealth in all actions brought by or against the Commonwealth. Reviews all proposed rules and regulations created by Commonwealth agencies. Carter, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here. Thank you all for having me. I do promise, like Ben, to not talk as long as the politicians do. I always make that promise when I start out. I am here on behalf of Eugene D. Pasquale, who is running for Attorney General. Some of you may be familiar with Eugene. He was our Auditor General for 8 years now, and since being Auditor General, he has taught law at University of Pittsburgh, which is where he is tonight. He has an in-person class, so it's the one thing on the schedule that I can't move around to get him here. So he would have been here to see you all, but he's got class tonight. So I want to just quick talk about Eugene's record as Auditor General, the tough investigations that he led in that office, and a little bit about his personal experience, how that relates to the Office of Attorney General, and then why we think Eugene's best positioned to win this race. So as Auditor General, Eugene really redefined the office and went farther than just making sure that the money, state money, is going where it's supposed to go, but making sure that the programs that it's going to are working the way they're supposed to, they're serving people of Pennsylvania, and that you're all best being served by your tax dollars. It was his investigation that found over 3,000 untested rape kits, the horror that those victims had to go through, and then to not get justice because of bureaucratic backlog. His office worked with law enforcement and victims' rights advocates to get that backlog reduced down 97%. His investigation, his office found 58,000 unanswered phone calls to the child abuse hotline. 58,000. Any one of which, as we all know, could have been life or death for a child or a parent or family member. And went to all 67 counties to make sure, work with Children and Youth Services to get that backlog reduced as well. It was his investigation into Real Alternatives, which was an organization that was essentially lying to women about their reproductive health care options when they were seeking information about abortions. That investigation later led to now Governor Josh Shapiro canceling the contract so that state dollars are not going to organizations that lie to women who are seeking their help. And that's just a little bit of Eugene's work that he's done on the professional side, defending Pennsylvanians. But I want to talk about why he's so personally passionate about it. If you meet him, he's really got the passionate, red-hot Italian blood. But it's also deeply informed by his life experiences. He grew up here in Pittsburgh. His father was a Vietnam veteran who came home after being wounded in the war, shot 3 times. And when he came home, he was prescribed synthetic heroin by the VA, which led to a 30-year battle with addiction and eventually 10.5-year federal incarceration for dealing. So Eugene knows intimately what happens to families that experience gun violence, the after effects of that, experience addiction and incarceration. He will be the first attorney general that would be a child of a convicted felon. His brother was born with muscular dystrophy, which back then was a pre-existing condition prior to Obamacare. You could not get health insurance. So his entire life, he did not have health insurance. And when his brother passed away at the age of 20, a sophomore at the University of Pittsburgh, due to complications of his disease, his family had to take out loans to pay for the funeral. His father came to the funeral in shackles, and the bills kept coming well after the funeral, after his brother died. So Eugene knows what insurance companies, these big corporations, will do to everyday Pennsylvanians if given the opportunity, if not held accountable. And one more thing that I know is going to be of sort of probably the hottest topic of the election cycle, and that's abortion rights. We all know we're going to be talking about that. Eugene, before he had his eldest son, his family had an ectopic pregnancy. And the decision that they had to make in that hospital that night would today, in some of the states like Oklahoma, some of these extremist states, would leave them, the doctor, and Tracy in jail. Today, 2024. So Eugene has made this promise to everyone in Pennsylvania that not only will he defend a Pennsylvanian's right to access reproductive health care, but he will defend the rights of anyone coming from those extremist right-wing states to Pennsylvania. He will defend their right to access reproductive health care as well. So he's going to have your back. Those are the stakes in November. And finally, I'll just leave you this. And just a little bit on why we know Eugene's the best candidate to win. He's the only candidate in the race that's run statewide before, been elected twice, including once when Donald Trump was on the ballot. And as much as we're all pretty sick of it, Donald Trump's going to be on the ballot again. And so I don't think I have to underscore you the stakes of this election, but I will say this. The 2 Republican candidates, and we don't know, which one will get nominated in a week, had a debate live on TV for the whole world to see, albeit it probably wasn't as viewed as well as the Super Bowl. And they were asked the question, they had the opportunity to answer and say to the camera that Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election. Neither one of the Republican candidates for Attorney General could do that. The next Attorney General is going to take office 3 days before the next president. You better bet that Pennsylvania's votes are going to be in the middle of lawsuits and challenges. And I want that next Attorney General to be somebody who has won in Pennsylvania, who has stood up to defend voting rights, has fought to keep our elections secure, and can admit that Joe Biden won the presidential election. Yeah. That's what's on the stakes. So I hope you'll join me voting for Eugene D. Pasquale next week, 1 week from today, April 23rd. Thank you all.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other representatives, any other people representing a campaign? I don't want to skip anyone out. Okay, well then if the partners would please join me up here, and I'll just cede the floor immediately. And I want to thank people joining us on live stream for tuning in. Your name, your organization, anything you'd like to say? Go ahead.
My name is Yvonne Rainey. I am with the John Lewis Transformative Justice Coalition. Good trouble, good trouble. Our votes do matter. But I'd like to just say this to you all. Your vote is precious, almost sacred. It's the most non-violent tool we have to create a more perfect union. The late, great John Lewis. Also, they talked about the For the People Act. This has been on the table at the Senate and the Congressional House since 2021. It is HR 1S1. 48 states has put this on the table, and this is where it's so important that we elect folks that's going to make sure that our vote do count. The John Lewis Peoples Act, that's been pushed, like I said, 2021. This is 2024. So make them accountable. Put this on the table, pass it, get it vote. Get a vote for us. Because once again, we know what we're dealing with. We have gerrymandering. We have ballots that shouldn't be counted, quote unquote. We have ballot boxes that's not out. We have people coming up talking about ID is required. Come on, y'all. Our democracy is very fragile now, more than ever, more than ever. So I encourage you, get in good trouble, boots on the ground, let's roll with it. Let's go. Right. There's one more. There's also one more. It's called Sister Saving Ourselves. April 19th, that's this Friday, at 10 o'clock on Freedom Corner. We have a bus going around this Allegheny County. That's Dr. Moore. She's affiliated with the National Coalition of Black Civic Participants. Freedom Corner, 10 o'clock. Y'all know the 23rd will be here? Think about it. What do we need to do? Boots on the ground, good trouble, let's get down. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is John Buchanan. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Officer with the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh. As you all know, we are a member of the Voting is Power Pittsburgh Regional Coalition. We're glad to be here and we're glad to support the initiative to get more of our people out to vote. As you know, the election's coming up on Tuesday, and it's very imperative that all of us, not just ourselves, go out and vote, but tell our friends, our family, our neighbors, our cousins, our brothers or sisters, because every election is more important than the last, especially now when so much is at stake. Yeah. Especially for the younger ones amongst us and our family. So the Urban League is committed to defending democracy, one of our initiatives from the National Urban League all the way down to the local affiliates. And we're here to support and uplift the voices that are fighting to make sure that our rights are secured for years and years to come. So thank you all for coming. All right.
Hello, my name is Lynn Thompson McKinley. I'm the owner of Fighting Back. And what we're doing is we are taking and we're getting ready to get involved, well, we're already involved in helping to do something with the criminal justice system. There's somebody in here that I'm gonna say she's a pastor and I'm getting her involved. I've been dragging her to all the things. She's coming in from Ohio. She's a pastor and she's a lawyer, and I'd like to introduce her because she's joining our team. Okay, her name is Lydia Spraggan. Lydia, stand up. I drag her around to all the things that I'm involved in because we're gonna make sure that we take on the criminal justice system, okay? I'm involved with BPEP, I'm involved with NAACP, I'm involved with Stand on Your Head, Turn Over, Roll Over, but we gotta do something about making sure that our vote counts. Thank you.
All right.
I'm Diana Holt, representing the League of Women Voters, and I just think this is awesome.
Awesome.
The power that you all bring, and it just makes me excited to be here and to thank everybody for their actions. The League has this wonderful tool, Vote for 11, and it's one thing I use when I see young people out there, and I say, hey, are you registered to vote? and they're not, I talk to them about Vote for 11. Go to that site. I often have a card and I hand it out. And I say, you have to think about climate change. You have to think, if it's a woman, a young girl, I said, you have to think about your rights. So we have to get out there, like you said, boots on the ground. Yes, we've got to get out there. So keep up the good work. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. The voter guide, the League of Women Voters, they're up there. Grab them. Thank you.
Somebody.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dalen Davis. I am the president of the NAACP Pittsburgh chapter. This election is consequential. Please vote April 23rd. We are a battleground state. So if you think that your vote don't matter, you are wrong. Your vote matters. In this election, especially when we have Donald Trump on the ballot. Your rights are at risk. Right that we have enshrined in Constitution has been challenged because of this election. When we talk about our ancestors and what they fought for, what they bled for, what they died for me to stand up here on the stage and say who I am and what I am as far as representing young folks, older folks, and seasoned folks, we need a collection of people to turn out to vote, especially for April 23rd. And just because you vote on April 23rd do not mean that we have to stop there. We need to make sure we continue the movement to the general election. Because regardless, if you want to talk about Biden's policies or what Donald Trump wants, it is about what you need, what your family needs, and what the American people needs. So please turn out to vote April 23rd. That's the new NAACP president.
How you doing? I'm Pastor Snyder from Bethel AME Church, and want to announce the event we're having on the 22nd with all of our coalition partners. Bethel has been in business since. You can't hear me?
No.
Oh, okay. You your mic that, Tim? All right. Now I see why you're doing that, Dylan. How you doing? I'm Pastor Snyder from Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church on the Hill. We've been in existence since 1808. And all of our collaborating partners who work with Black Voters Matters, BPEP, One Hood, NAACP will be convening at our church at 6 o'clock on Monday to do our statewide coalition meeting. We're inviting everybody. There's several events happening all across the city to get out to vote. Your voice is your vote. So if you want your voice to be heard, you got to exercise your right to vote. It is your American right. And I encourage you to take 3 people to the polls with you. Don't talk about it. Don't laugh about it. Just be about it. God bless you.
All right, and I introduced myself earlier, but just to reiterate, my name is Josiah Gilliam, and I am the executive director at PUMP. We're so pleased and honored to be a part of these events with so many great partners. We enjoyed collaborating last year on the countywide candidate forum and are excited for a busy year in 2024. I have 2 announcements that I'd like to bring your attention. For those of you who are not super familiar with PUMP, we mainly serve young professionals, and we have 2 opportunities now that I'd like to put before you in case you are interested. First is we partner with Pittsburgh Magazine on Pittsburgh 40 Under 40 every year. It's a celebration of young people making a difference, young people creating new things, moving up in their career. And nominations are currently open. And so I encourage you, if you know young people under the age of 40 in Pittsburgh, you can just Google Pittsburgh 40 Under 40 and place their name for consideration. We pride ourselves on having not just a great party and celebration, but on highlighting a diverse representation of the Pittsburgh community. So please check that out online. Secondly, the second Saturday of every August, we run an event called Kickball for a Cause. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a 32-team kickball tournament that happens in Mellon Park. The way it works is the organizations nominate themselves, and then we put out finalists to a community vote to determine who the beneficiary or beneficiaries will be this year. Finalists have been announced, and voting is open for the 2024 Kickball for a Cause. The 5 finalists are great organizations, and I'll mention them in alphabetical order. And even if you don't vote, I encourage you to look them up because they do terrific work in the Pittsburgh community. Assemble Pittsburgh, a great organization in Garfield. Awaken Pittsburgh, focused on mental health. Footbridge for Families, direct supports for families in various situations. Pittsburghers for Public Transit, exactly what it sounds like. And Public Source PA, a nonprofit journalism organization in the Pittsburgh community. So please vote. And we will announce who the finalists are. And then if you'd like to, please feel free to join us on August 10th in Mellon Park to celebrate these organizations. We'll play kickball with food and music and a DJ and all that. But the organizations themselves, the finalists themselves, will be there. And it's always fun to meet them, learn more about them in person. So thank you again so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Repeat the date one more time.
August 10th, second Saturday of August this year, Mellon Park. Thank you, guys.
We have an update from what my pastor, Reverend Dr. Dale Snyder, mentioned. The dinner will occur about 6.
Yes.
At 5 o'clock in front of Hill House, there'll be a press conference with all the partners. And on the 22nd, Monday, and the big bus from Black Voters Matter will be there. And that's always impressive. If you've never seen it before, it's very impressive.
Yeah, it is.
It's an intense thing. We want to again thank the minister and this church, Reverend Katrina Organ, the pastor, and the young man who's been hosting us and doing whatever he needed to do to make sure we were comfortable and our needs were met. Reverend Mark M. Rosier, would you give him another hand? Come on, Lord, come on. And before he comes up, you all heard why. We vote in each and every election. Whenever there's an ACP election, this man and I talk every week. Sometimes we talk too much in one day, as we did today. But I want to acknowledge him because y'all know I have an NAACP history. My Alma Speed Fox was my civil rights mother. Bird R. Brown was my civil rights father. And the branch has been a little dormant for a while. And I can tell you that this young man, is it 29 or 28?
29.
29, he's getting older already. He is trying his best to revitalize the branch. And instead of, because over the years, because of my visibility, I've heard comments about the NAACP. My request is give this young man and his executive committee an opportunity to survive and thrive and be a partner in the struggle. Give him another hand. Dalen A. Davis. And you can see he has some strong oratorical skills. All right, man.
Amen. I am Reverend Mark Rosier of Gil Baptist Church, and I'm not here just to preach, but I'm here to serve.
Yes.
All right.
So that's what I do. I drive the van, pick people up every Sunday, take them home every Sunday, but that's what the Lord has me to do.
That's right.
And on behalf of Reverend Katrina Organ, Senior Pastor of Beulah Baptist Church, we thank you all for choosing our church. Come back anytime. Kelly Kale is part of this church and part of the whole community. She brings in folks from everywhere. So we love you, Kel. Amen. And, Jim Stevens, I thank you so much for, for coming here. Thank you all so much.
And I would be remiss if this lady didn't at least stand up. The glue.
The queen.
The queen.
The queen.
BPEP,
Well,
Civic Engagement Coordinator,
well.
Lorraine Cross, without the cook. Lorraine Cross, Civic Engagement Coordinator. If there's any food left or refreshments, take them.
Go ahead. It's one more thing. Just stand on back there.
Come on.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
On behalf of the Food Bank of Beulah Baptist Church and on behalf of Denise Hilton, there's some bread over here. Please help yourself. And there's a few bags of chicken. There's some bags over there. Please help yourself. Take it all. Amen.
All right. Speak of food, we have some leftover pizza. You know what? I'm gonna knock you out. Oh, okay. We have some food left over. We ask that you please take some because I don't want to be the pig and just carry out all the boxes. So this is our last meet and greet for this time, at this time, for this cycle, the primary. We know the general, we're kicking back in. And remember this, each and every one of us makes a difference. Thank you.
And when will you vote? In each and every election. Good night, everybody. Thank you all.
All right.